Hello, everybody, and indeed, welcome to another edition of Hoosier Hometown Heroes. We are, of course, sponsored by Prometheus Consulting. If you've ever wondered what the next industrial revolution will be, well, guess what? It's already here. My guest today is founder and CEO of Dattus, a visionary company providing predictive and prescriptive analytics to the industrial sector. Is a future of near zero downtime within reach? We'll soon find out. I now welcome to the show Anurag Garg. Welcome, Anurag.
Thank you for having me, Tony.
So I thought maybe a good place to start is to talk about what we mean by downtime in the industrial sector. So let's see. I've been thinking about sort of a concept to see if I understand kind of the value you guys are providing, and let's see how I do. So I'm thinking of an industry like mining. Let's say we have a big mining interest. They've got maybe a massive exploration drill. Let's say they're drilling to see what's in some huge plot of land, and a ball bearing goes out, and it just kills the drill, and they've got to stop things, order a part, get that drill fixed before they can start mining again, start searching, and so there's a huge cost associated to that. So is that, first of all, is that the type of downtime you guys are addressing?
Yes, absolutely. So you got to think about when that drill goes down, how many of those drills there are at the mine, and if one drill is down, how many other pieces of machinery are idle until that drill is fixed. You may have multiple trucks, you may have a shovel, all the equipment, all the labor, everything stops until that drill is back up and running. And there's an opportunity cost associated with that downtime, how much money you could have been making if that drill was operating, and what costs you're incurring paying your workforce who's sitting and doing nothing because you're still waiting for the drill to be fixed.
Yes. And is it true that your technology will report to, let's say, the foreman or whoever's watching the equipment? It will report ahead of time, hey, I'm about to fail.
Exactly.
That's the whole idea?
We're enabling greater visibility into real-time status of the machines. We're collecting continuous data and unlocking the intelligence from that data to be able to say not just what's happening right now, but based on the current data trend, what will happen in the next so many hours or so many days, so many weeks. So you can get ahead of that failure, predict that failure, and fix it before things go wrong.
So is your technology when you're implemented at a client facility? We'll talk about the mine because that's a picture I painted. When you're when your stuff is installed, are you learning about the equipment they have? In other words, does it become better at predicting over time that the failure window?
Absolutely. Just like us as humans, the more we see, the more we learn. We can teach machines to do the same. The more data they have, the longer we've been collecting data, there's a lot that machines can learn. Ironically, it's called machine learning, where you can teach or you can develop algorithms which will make your technology, make your software, make your programs better at understanding the machine and predicting failure.
Have you guys actually done have you studied different verticals to understand what is the cost of downtime?
Absolutely, and it changes industry to industry. So at the mines, the mining example we've been talking about, a surface coal mine typically, depending on the piece of equipment, a mining shovel, say a BE 495 shovel, that fills up a 80-ton mining truck in 3 bucket loads. This is a huge piece of equipment. Typical average size mine may have maybe 1 or 2 of these. This thing produces about $20,000 an hour. So the opportunity cost of downtime is $20,000 an hour, plus the cost of repair, plus the cost of idling everything else on the mine. Take that to a continuous manufacturing facility, say a automotive manufacturing plant that's producing so many cars every hour. There, the opportunity cost of downtime is maybe $100,000 an hour. Take that to a oil exploration or oil drilling rig in the middle of the ocean. The opportunity cost there is several $100,000 an hour. So it depends on the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more, one piece of it is the downtime, what the opportunity cost is. And the other side of it is, what does business interruption mean? Take the pharmaceutical industry, for example. If on a pharmaceutical production line, if something fails unexpectedly, the entire batch of pharmaceuticals that they've been producing at that time goes down the drain because they've lost control over the process. That's $2 million down the drain in a flash.
Wow. It just occurred to me that I get the sense now that you've had to learn an awful lot about a lot of different industries. That must be an interesting endeavor. Are you studying all the time to try and understand your clients' pain points better?
Absolutely. Learning never stops. Both reading and reading things online and educating ourselves. But we've made it our objective from day one to listen to the customers. Before we jumped into running Dattus full time, we had conducted about 200 customer interviews just to go out and learn the pain points in the industry, understand what people needed, what problems they had that were not being fulfilled by technology today, so we could understand where we could come in and fill the gaps.
Now, after hearing about the cost of downtime, I would assume a naive view would say, well, this sounds like kind of a no-brainer. On the surface, it seems like an absolute no-brainer. Are you finding, as you bring this to market, surely there are other forces come to bear, and it's no matter how good the idea, it seems like maybe the first guy to sell water, maybe that's sold perfectly well. But are you coming up? Are you having to educate your clients on your technology and the benefits and savings and so forth?
Absolutely. I think going to continuous monitoring and the type of technology that we're bringing to market is a no-brainer, yes. But that doesn't mean that it's not changing the way they do business today, they being maintenance staff today or industrial facilities today. We had, I won't name the company, but we had a reliability manager at one of these companies say, we're still operating like it was the 1990s. And I've visited manufacturing facilities that operate as if it was 50 years ago. No safety, no regard for, they're still, on a run to failure mode. If something fails, we'll go fix it, because they're still kind of living day to day. The education piece is a big aspect because you're making the maintenance department change the way they do things, and change is uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah, we see that all over the place. Anurag, I would assume, see, in my mind, there's also this element, there's this nano element. I'm going to call it a nano element because, and I guess what I mean by that is, well, you are using nanotechnology, correct? I'm assuming you're using nano sensors. You're using equipment that is microscopically small to monitor and report back. Is that correct?
Some of the sensor technology that we commercialize is based on micro-nano devices. But the overall solution is sensor agnostic in that we're taking off-the-shelf sensors and plugging them in as well. So we can implement this without the nanoscale. The nano sensors or the micro nano sensors come into play with certain proprietary sensor technologies that enable detection in areas where it was not possible before. We're able to put temperature and vibration sensors on the inside of the machines in the harsh environment conditions, on the bearing cage, rotating with the bearing, in contact with the lubricant. That sort of sensing, that sort of resolution was never available before. So in applications that demand it, that's also something we can enable. But that just goes to this kind of application-specific thing.
I see. Do you see or do you predict that some potential clients might take almost a two-step process? Maybe they go into your offering, but with kind of so-called traditional sensors, let's say. They understand. They start to see the benefits. They say, "Wow, we really like this. What else can we learn using the nano technology. Do you see them kind of moving to taking 2 steps to move into your offering?
Certain specific clients, yes. Step 1 is let's get continuous data. And then step 2 is, okay, what are the machines where we need extreme high resolution data? Where do we need 10 times the response time? What are the single points of failure where traditional sensors don't quite cut it? See, if you look at the industrial domain today, continuous monitoring of machines is still cost prohibitive, or still out of reach, I should say, to about 75% of the market for cost and complexity reasons. 90% of machines out there today don't have any continuous monitoring. And the reason is because it's too costly, it's too complex. On the flip side, we hear so much talk about Industry 4.0 and the next industrial revolution, like you said. Smart machines that talk to each other. We see sci-fi movies that depict what smart cities, smart industries would look like. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's accessible to a very small part of the market. There needs to be someone who can come in and change the game and make this accessible to that 75% of the market that doesn't have any sort of continuous monitoring. If we want machines to talk to each other, if we want smart machines that predict failure themselves, self-monitor, self-correct, step 1 is enabling continuous data collection from these machines and learning from them. What we've done is we've simplified the data collection infrastructure in a way that enables not only new technology but new business models. And made it accessible. So step 1, like I said, improving the status quo from no data to continuous data. And then step 2 is how do we get better data and how do we unlock the intelligence.
Is there a portion of your service that would give a company access to data crunchers or data miners? Are you having to help interpret the data for your client? Here's what this data means. Absolutely.
The kind of other big problem, aside from lack of continuous data in the industry today, is there's a lack of highly trained data engineers who know what to do with machine data and can unlock intelligence from continuous machine data. So they go back to setting very basic alert levels. When temperature crosses 70, raise a flag, and that's when I know something's gone wrong.
Yep.
The larger companies, the Fortune 500 companies, have the budget to attract these guys who actually know what they're doing. The rest don't. Smaller manufacturing companies usually don't have that capability. What they do is they bring in outside consultants to come in and do the data crunching for them. Now that works, but it's not scalable. What we're doing is we're kind of automating that process. So outside consultants would come in, once every 3 months or 6 months. We can enable you to have this intelligence on a continuous basis, not a report every 3 months. And we're not putting these consultants out of business. We're working with them to empower them to monitor the machines that they service out in the field, give them more visibility so they can become better at what they do.
Again, sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Yep.
I know you're a relatively new company, correct? Couple years old.
Yep.
Very good. Well, I want to get a little bit into your background, because it's not every day that I get to talk to someone that's doing this. It's pretty extraordinary what you're doing, and part of what I'm interested in is to kind of learn how did this all come about. First, I do want to thank our sponsor, of course. Hoosier Hometown Heroes is sponsored by Prometheus Consulting. We were founded by Hoosiers, we employ Hoosiers, and we instill Midwestern values in everything we do. Prometheus would be honored to play a computer support role on your team. Give us a call today at 317-733-2388 or find us online at Prometheus.com, and that's P like Peter, R-O-M like Mary, ETHIUS.com. My guest is Anurag Garg, founder and CEO of Dattus. So I would like to I would like to take a big step back and talk a little bit about your upbringing. So you were born in India, correct?
That is correct.
Yes. and you went away to school at a pretty young age, if I remember a previous conversation we had. How old were you when you went away to school?
So my family moved from India to Thailand when I was 3, and I grew up in Thailand.
Okay, now it's coming back to me. Yes, grew up in Thailand.
Grew up in Thailand, but then I think what you're referring to is I went to boarding school.
Yes,
when I was 9.
9.
And went back to India to a boarding school there because my family was moving around a fair amount in Thailand.
Got it.
And we had just moved to this new town that didn't quite have a good school. My parents weren't sure if we were going to stick around in Thailand long enough. So I went to boarding school in India for 4 years, from when I was 9 to when I was 13, grades 4 through 7. And that really shaped a lot of who I am today.
And how so? How did that? How does that equate into today? Who you are today?
I think a lot of my kind of independence comes from living by myself at that age. I mean, when I say by myself, this was a very nurturing boarding house and
controlled environment.
Very controlled environment, of course. But it teaches you a lot when you don't have mom to rely on for everything.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Kind of taking care of yourself for the most part. A lot is still provided to you, but living away from home for an extended period of time teaches you a lot. A lot of my independence came from there. A lot of, I've been influenced by my friends a lot. And that's because, boarding school, your friends were family. The guys I lived with were effectively family at the time.
Interesting. I would imagine too that boarding school is it exposes you to other people that are probably, let's face it, coming from a fairly successful background, but maybe in different ways. At least that's how it is in America. I'm not sure if it's that way in India. It
was exposed to people from a lot of different backgrounds. I wouldn't necessarily say they were all from very successful backgrounds. The school that I went to was one of the top schools in India, so it attracted a lot of kids from all over the country. And there were we had about 200 kids in our house.
And that was Regents International.
No,
school.
that was a school in India called Dattus College. It exposed me to a lot of people from multiple different backgrounds. Most of them were Indian, of course. But that also taught me a lot of being outside my comfort zone. When you live at home, especially at that age, you're very used to comfort and familiarity. When you live with people who are very, very different to yourself, who think differently, who work differently, whose home environments are very different, in all different ways, it teaches you a lot about how to interact, how to be comfortable around people different to yourself.
Something I noticed about you that I'll just mention here because I think it relates. You have kind of a poise to you. You seem very comfortable, and when I think about in general terms, a person that's now, this is your first company, correct?
This is my first real company.
Oh, that's right. We talked. That would be fun to talk about your previous company. Sure. But okay, so this is your first real company.
This is my first real company.
A cutting edge offering, cutting edge technology, endless complexity. Yet, you seem every time I've been around you, you seem just very under control. Just get very relaxed. So you think some of those early challenges and having to kind of grow up early has helped you to be that way?
Absolutely. I think a lot of that is something I've learned over the years. After boarding school in India, I went back to Thailand, and I stayed at home for the last 5 years of school. Did high school in Thailand at a school called the Regents International School. Same story. This being an international school, there were students from multiple different countries. Again, very, very different to myself, very different ways of thinking. That gave me a very global outlook that, again, instilled in me how to interact and be around people different to myself, who think differently, who work differently. I picked up a lot of leadership roles in high school, and it taught me to lead teams with people very different to myself.
And this is where that previous business comes. Let's talk about that business.
There's a program called Young Enterprise. It's a British program. This was a British international school, and our school had just started it. It was the second year doing it, and I led a team of about 15, making and selling greeting cards. And
I love it.
We called ourselves Chameleon Cards, changing colors for all the seasons and all the different things that I have cards for. We did digital cards and handmade crafty cards, and this was back in 2003 when digital printing and edge-to-edge printing was, photo printers were becoming more and more common. And I remember taking I think it was a 14,000 Thai baht loan from one of the teachers.
Oh my goodness!
To buy a printer and paper. I had some software with me, and we started making and selling cards. And it was within the school environment. We never did anything outside necessarily, unless we had parents come in and buy stuff. I think we ended up netting about 100,000 Thai baht in profits.
Wow!
At the end of the whole thing.
So the teacher got his money back.
And the teacher got the money back 6 weeks ahead of 6 weeks before we were supposed to.
Yes.
Handed back, and December 2004, the tsunami hit Southeast Asia.
Wow.
And that hit very close to home because we were in Thailand. The parts of Thailand were destroyed. Our school did a lot of service projects and home building and all of that in the affected regions. So that was a great time to end and shut things down as well, because we were getting ready to graduate. We donated everything we had earned to the service projects the school had.
See, I'm thinking a tsunami comes. Think of all the get well soon cards you could have sold. You got to think outside the box, Anurag.
I think the money went a long way. The get well soon cards could have done as well. But
that's just my sense of humor. Speaking of business experience in school, I had a grade school friend who was actually a horrible student. He was always working with tutors and just having a horrible time, barely getting by. He networked his way, so just people skills. He networked his way into some elite boarding school on the East Coast. He eventually ended up in Harvard Business School, and this is, I got to tell you, it's mostly just his personality, and I won't get deep into that here, but we'll talk about it over coffee someday. But I remember talking with him after he went to this boarding school, and he said all the kids have a business, all of them. Like, it's just part of the culture. And what was interesting is I was just starting. I was about to go to my first year of college, and when I understood that this group of kids in some boarding school somewhere on the East Coast, when it was just commonplace for them all to have a business, what it did for me is I realized, why couldn't I have a bit? So I started, I guess, my first business as a freshman in college, and I did not pay anybody back. It failed. I actually didn't borrow any money either. It was all my own money, but learned a lot of great lessons.
Sure.
But I think sometimes that exposure, it's invaluable. Just Absolutely. When you learn what other people are doing and what's possible. Sometimes that's all you need to hear, is that someone else is doing this or has done this, and you say, well, why not myself?
It motivates you a lot to see others doing it. I have friends who keep telling me, I wish I was doing what you were doing, because I mean, to see someone go this route is quite motivating. And in fact, part of the reason why I'm doing this is because I have seen friends go down this path. When I did Young Enterprise, that was the second year our school was doing it, and I saw the class before, and I saw what they did, and I was like, this would be cool. We should I want to lead something myself as well. That's what we did. I think that was when I became very entrepreneurial, and learning the business skills back in high school helped a lot. I went through a program in high school called IB, International Baccalaureate. And it's a 2-year high school diploma. It's junior and senior year high school. It's a 2-year program. And imagine taking only AP classes. You take 6 AP classes for 2 years. Each one's a 2-year course. It's a very, very rigorous program. And it taught me a lot. I think I learned more about business then and from my teachers then than I ever did through any of my classes at Purdue. And then it got on steroids when I started Bearing Analytics, which is now Dattus, and learned so much more through all the accelerators and the programs we went through. We're now part of a program called Founder.org, started by a guy called Michael Baum, who is a former founder and CEO of a company called Splunk. And Founder.org is a global entrepreneur development program. They take and select entrepreneurs and companies from around the world, and they coach them for a year. They nurture them, teach the young entrepreneurs how to build companies, and they work with student entrepreneurs. And the goal is encouraging the younger generation to start businesses and encourage job creation down the road. I've learned so much from that, and that's where I met more of the guys you're talking about. But everyone has had a business before. Yes. I was having a conversation with a friend some time ago, and we were talking about how we were kind of proud of our leadership accomplishments before this current business, and I was proud of the fact that I started my first thing back in high school, and it was a small thing, but I started something back in high school. Met a guy in this program. He's 22. He's about 5 years younger than I am. Him and his brother. This is their third successful company. Third successful real company. And it's quite humbling.
I have this theory that I think entrepreneurship is almost a just a human character, like quality that really we all have. I think it's in just about everybody, and it's all about getting someone, be they a child or a senior citizen, getting them exposure and experience and just kind of trying it. We have some friends that have 2 young daughters, and they were telling my wife and I the other day, we can't get them to, they're selling everything. They're the one that I remember from the conversation, they're even selling foot massages, We are always telling her to stop selling stuff. And I said, no. This is exactly what you want. Foster this.
It's a great skill.
Yes.
Great skill.
Yeah, selling is a great skill. My guest is Anurag Garg. He is founder and CEO of Dattus. So getting back to Dattus, Anurag, what is a good client for you? Is there a certain size or a certain industrial vertical that's a really good fit?
We've seen the best or the most value that we can drive in a facility is anything that has continuous operations, continuous manufacturing operations, a process, or maybe it's aviation or transportation, where the idea is there are a few single points of failure where there are things in that system or that line or that machine where if that fails, everything shuts down. And the cost of downtime is huge. So there's a need to get ahead of that failure. Manufacturing facilities are a great example. Size-wise, I don't think there is a limitation on what size of company we can drive value at. Of course, companies that are smaller than maybe 10 million in size, $10 million in annual revenue, I guess. Usually they're kind of running day to day, and things move slower. But any sort of large continuous manufacturing operation is a great client. We've seen a lot of value and a lot of opportunity with service providers. So, machine rebuild and repair shops, or companies that are providing machine monitoring or machine repair or machine data collection services. Companies who are doing what we do, but on a more manual basis. Giving them visibility into the equipment in the field that they own and service today. Because usually to them what happens is something fails at a customer location. They get a call and say, hey, something broke. Can you come tomorrow and fix it? And we've heard guys have had to travel from here to Australia to service a broken machine on a day's notice. Those tickets are not cheap.
I can imagine. Wow.
So if you can get ahead of that failure, if you can give these guys, visibility into the equipment that they're servicing in the field, helps them get ahead of failure before it occurs, plan better. Maybe give your clients a call to say, hey, I'm beginning to see this problem, take care of this, do this. You may be able to prevent failure. There's a lot of money to be saved there. There's a lot of value to be driven. So that's the other ideal client.
In essence, are they almost reselling your service?
They are, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So they charge their clients a fee to have the constant monitoring.
Yep, yeah. Exactly.
Sounds just like IT.
Yeah. Well,
that's what Prometheus does.
That's
essentially.
what Prometheus does. Yep.
That's fascinating. Well, I before I forget, I do want to mention that the website is dattus.com, correct?
Dattus, dattus.com.
Dattus. How did you come up with the name?
It's a play between data and status. We're empowering engineers with data-driven intelligence on the status of their machines. So
yeah,
it's a made-up word. But I think it explains what we do pretty well.
Yeah, that's pretty thoughtful. Sometimes, when I ask someone, how did you name your company? You hear, I thought it was a cool name. We get asked all the time, how did you name Prometheus?
How did you name Prometheus?
Well, so Denver Abernathy, the other partner here at Prometheus, he was a Greek mythology buff in college. And he said, when we started the company, he said, I have the perfect name. He said, let's call it Prometheus because Prometheus is the Greek god of forethought. Okay. This is what he told me.
Okay.
And he said, what better word for IT consultants? Forethought, that allow us to tell the story. Now, as it turns out, over the year, we've been in business 16 years now. I have now met several Greek mythology buffs over the years, and they don't think of forethought as the first thought when they hear Prometheus.
Okay. What do they think?
They think of the story of Prometheus, which I think Prometheus gave fire to humans or something, maybe. But the thing that I always hear is he was chained to a rock and his eyes were pecked out by some vultures or something. Once I heard that story 4 or 5 times, why'd you pick the guy that was chained to a rock and his eyes were pecked out? I said, Denver, not a good choice. We already 7 or 8 years into it, and name recognition. So
right.
Anyway,
I like the name though.
Yeah.
We'll think of forethought. We'll go with that.
Well, so once again, my guest has been Anurag Garg. He is founder and CEO of Dattus, and you can learn about Dattus at dattus.com, Dattus. Anurag, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, and I wish you the best of luck. And someday I'm going to have you back, and we'll see how far you've grown.
Absolutely.
Very
Thank you
good.
so much, Tony.
Okay, thank you.